Welcome to the TeenTix Arts Podcast, also known as TAP, a Seattle-based youth podcast that focuses on empowering youth voices through the exploration of art. Here on this podcast, we share our favorite artistic topics by exploring their histories and cultural impact. This week, we will be discussing our hot takes and reflecting on our past season's episodes. Today, Mykah, Tegan, Ashwari, and I will be talking about hot takes. We've talked about a lot of topics this season, but we wanted to make it even more specific, and we've all come up with different pop culture hot takes that we wanted to talk about and kind of debate.
Okay, so our first topic is there are no bad movies / TV shows. I feel like whenever I'm watching movies or TV shows, I like to just turn off my brain. And one of the examples is Riverdale. And hear me out, I love Riverdale. I love the pace, how much drama there is. And I feel like, I don't know, when you want to sit down and watch a show, I feel like watching just a cheesy movie or TV show is always good.
Yeah, adding on to that, I love watching bad shows or bad movies, just for fun or to make fun of it, not in a mean way.
Yeah.
But sometimes badly made media is kind of funny to watch.
Yeah, I feel like if you're just watching a movie and you're having fun, that's the entire point of the movie. I don't care about the budget, what it's about, what's going on, as long as I'm sitting there and laughing, that's all that matters. Especially one of my favorite movies, quote unquote bad movies, is Twilight, because it's just so bad that it's good that I'm just having so much fun. I don't even care that some of them are there's a scene where they're supposed to be playing soccer but there's just no ball.
Or the baseball scene.
That's what makes it so great.
Yeah, I love sometimes when movies and TV shows they just keep it going. Whenever there's 100 seasons of a really bad show, it's just it gets more unhinged. They're what else can we do in the show? And I feel that's really funny.
I feel another nuance to this no bad movies is live action remakes. I feel some of them can be good if they're well made, but sometimes I feel they're just so bad that they're not even funny anymore. For example, I watched Lilo and Stitch. You guys, I did not like it. I feel sometimes the problem with live action movies is why are you making it?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel not every animated movie has to be made into a live action, especially one about an alien. How are you making that into a live action, a furry alien? But but I also think that there are some live actions that were really well executed. I personally really loved the Aladdin live action. I felt the way they executed every part of it was great. The soundtrack, the casting, the setup, everything was so good. And it was just a really enjoyable experience. And I could still feel that nostalgia while I was watching the live action that I got from, the original animated.
Yeah, I totally agree. I also think that they did a really good job with Beauty and the Beast too. I loved that movie. Emma Watson was really good in it. So was everyone else, but she was especially good. But then also I heard they're remaking Harry Potter as a TV show, and every season is gonna be its own book, and I just really don't know how I feel about that. Because first they've already made it a movie, and then I don't know. I feel the movies are really good, and I don't know. I feel just adding more remakes isn't gonna be good because it's just taking away the magic. You know what I mean?
I feel adding on to that, I feel another area that's pretty similar is Wattpad, rom-coms, because I love rom-com. I love The Notebook, I love those classics, but I feel recently there's been a lot of movies made from Wattpads, which are fan fiction stories, and I don't know, I just feel they're super cheesy and also way too much, you know what I mean? Not that fun cheesy, but also it's usually based off of a celebrity or a real person, which is kind of a weird thing to have a movie made about you, with this fantasy world. And I don't know, I feel it's taking over the classic rom-com scene. after, I can't remember the name of the movie, but the Noah Beck movie.
The Quarterback and Me.
Yes. Those were all made from Wattpads, which I just think is, I don't know, I feel like it's very interesting.
They all have like the same tropes.
Yes. Yeah.
It's kind of the same repeat story, but.
Yeah, like the cheerleader and the quarterback. Yeah.
Okay, well, on to some movies that I really love. Personally, I really love musical movies. And I might be alone in that, and that's okay. But I love High School Musical. I love Tick, Tick, Boom. I love The Greatest Showman. I just rewatched it. And, like, I feel like there's just such an art to a musical movie. Like, it doesn't seem like you would enjoy watching, like, random people burst into song in the middle of the street type thing. But, like, it's so much fun. You're like, I wish I lived in a musical. Well, maybe that's just me. Maybe I wish I lived in a musical. But I love musical movies. And also, it's just, like, the production is always so, like, high effort. Like, Wicked, oh, my God, crazy.
Yeah. No, I love musical movies. I feel like I did a lot, like, theater growing up, and what they would say is, like, when you can't say it in words, you have to do it in song, which is, like, that's a very theater kid thing to say, but, like, I love that sentiment. Like, I don't know, I feel like we should bring back flash mobs. Like, why aren't we doing that more? I just feel like, I don't know, it adds to the emotion of the movie, and I love it. Another topic I have is I love nepo babies. Like, I feel like there's a lot of controversy around them, and I don't know, personally, like, if you have everything you want in the world, like, I want to see you next to Jacob Elordi in a movie. I don't know, like, I would too. I just feel like, I don't know, I just love them, and I love that, like, they're just everywhere. I don't know, I feel like Romy Mars, which is Sofia Coppola's daughter, is blowing up right now. She just, like, released music, and she's just, like, posting. She's in the streets of New York. She's, you know, her first music video is directed by Sofia Coppola, and it's, like, that's insane, but I love it. And also, like, Lily Rose Depp. I don't know, I love the nepo babies out there.
I agree. I love nepo babies. Also, okay, I feel like a lot of people, like celebrities, are nepo babies and I don't even know it.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I love when they, like, are proud of it. You know what I mean? Rather than being like, oh, these aren't my parents.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like kind of on that point, like, for me personally, I feel like I, like, love auto-tune. And I feel like you always, like, you don't need to be the best singer. I feel like someone who does it really well is, like, Charli XCX. Like, she uses it as a tool rather than, like, to make her voice sound better traditionally. And I love the sound of it. I think it adds to songs a lot. And I feel like it's a very taboo thing to use autotune as a singer. But personally, I love it.
I agree. I love, like, just, like, singers. Like, okay, I think that I agree with, like, you don't have to be the best singer. Like, you 100% don't. I feel like it's more, like, authentic if you aren't the best singer. Because, like, then it, like, really comes from, like, you wanting to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Also, on the point of Charli XCX, I feel like with Brat, she's kind of, like, pushing it out, and I feel like a lot of artists really just, like, they feel the need to make new music constantly, especially when they just got their, like, huge break and want to stay in that relevancy. But I feel like holding on to an album or, like, not releasing music for a while until it's authentic is, like, the best personally, because, like, even though, like, I want new music always, I feel like when it's not authentic, it doesn't feel the same. Like Harry Styles, like, I miss you, but I understand.
Come back.
Yeah, like, when he drops the album, like, I think it will be the most, like, authentic to him, which I really appreciate.
I think, like, also, like, all the artists, like, releasing new music, it's like a lot of people start to hate, like, mainstream music or, like, really popular songs. And I think that I speak for a lot of people when I say that hating pop music does not make you cool. Like, popular songs are popular for a reason. I love pop music personally. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And also, you said popular pop music is like popular for a reason. I agree with that because there's no way that you hate like the entirety of pop music. I mean, there's definitely some songs that have like some kind of like music psychology that make them kind of addictive. So yeah, I definitely don't think it's possible when people say like, oh, I hate all pop music.
I also feel like just like accepting that you love some of those radio songs, I feel like makes you even cooler when you like the like SoundCloud thing from your dad's basement. Like, I just feel like accepting all music, and then when you genuinely like something, it just makes you way cooler.
Okay, kind of on that topic, liking like mainstream music and stuff. Personally, I love boy bands. I was a huge One Direction fan, still am to this day. I think boy bands are really cool, and I wish they would come back.
Agree. I had a resurgence of Five Sauce a couple weeks ago. I don't know why. I think I just saw a video, and I don't know. I love Luke Hemmings. Like, I don't know. I just love the like fan culture around boy bands. I love the like diehard stan of it all. I also feel like K-pop does like the groups very well, and I think like boy bands are kind of on that same level. You like pick your favorite one, things like that. I feel like another topic that has been brought up related to like mainstream music and things like that is Addison Rae, and she like got her start in social media and TikTok, and a lot of people have been talking about like it's like inauthentic. Her music's inauthentic. She's trying to be this like pop star, and she can't be because she was doing the Renegade in 2020. And I don't know. I feel like I saw her recently in an interview say like choice and taste is a luxury, which I thought was really cool. Like she was saying that she started doing TikToks and like family vlogs and things like that because she wanted to have a platform and make it out of her hometown. And then like now she feels like she's authentic, which I think is really cool. And I love the music. I think it's so fun. And her album comes out on June 6th. So, you know.
Give it a listen. Yeah, I love Addison Rae's music, personally. Her new stuff is she's kind of releasing bangers, can't lie. But also on the topic of TikTok, I feel like it's been a big thing for like teenagers or like, yeah, just like, I feel like it's been a big thing for like teenagers to like buy like small like collectibles of sorts. Like I've seen a lot of people get Sunny Angels and like Smiskies and like the Labubus, the new ones. I just got a Smisky, so I can't really be talking, but I think it's really cute. But what are your guys' thoughts?
Guys, I'm a collectible #1 fan, okay? I think the hate on the Boo-Boos are so forced. They are so cute because like you can't be hating on the Boo-Boos because they're kind of a little bit scary, but also have like a naked baby on your phone case. That doesn't make any sense, you guys. And yeah, I think there is a little bit of dilemma where like people are posting them buying like hundreds of just boxes, and that kind of touches a little bit on consumerism. But it's like there's always going to be that one person who takes it to the extreme, and then there's just like regular people like me who buy it like once every 6 months when I get my paycheck. So I love them. I think if they bring you joy, I think you should do it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I also think there's a point about like collectibles. Like, though it's a TikTok trend to have like Sunny Angels and like Labubus right now, collectibles aren't really like a new thing. Like, people have been collecting things for a long time, like rocks or shells. And I think there is an issue with like consumerism if you're getting like shelves on shelves of them. But it's also really cute if you have like something that you really like that you're building a collection of, like, you know, in moderation.
Speaking of in moderation, I personally am not the biggest fan of the Met Gala. I feel like it's just, I like the idea of having the Met Gala as raising money for the Metropolitan Museum, raising money for fashion, but oftentimes it feels like a little bit not true to the person who's putting on these clothes, because I just recently realized that celebrities, they basically they have to pay to get in, or oftentimes there's this fashion company that pays them to like wear their clothes for like a ticket to get in, and so they're not actually wearing what they would wear in real life or like anything that's true to their taste. They're wearing what they were paid to wear. And like I get this, the basic idea of a celebrity, but I feel like there's so many more people out there who have like true and unique taste that deserve to get a spot in the sunlight, even though they're not as popular as celebrities.
I definitely agree, and I think like obviously those events are just, you know what I mean, like all the A-list people, things like that. But I also think like that happens a lot in Hollywood and like that culture. And I think I think the Met Gala, what I personally like about it is like a huge night for fashion as well. And I feel like using the celebrities as like people to share designs, share different themes, things like that. They create the excitement and hype around watching it, but then you get to see the designer in work. And I also think it brings like thinking about fashion into a mainstream way. I don't know. I feel like if we are like talking about the Met Gala, I think we should talk about every single event, because I think like things like the Grammys and some music nominations, like they're not always fair, and people do pay for things like that. And so I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's a personal thing, but I do love watching the Met Gala, and I love the outfits, and I love dissecting the theme and things like that.
Another like TikTok thing that we wanted to discuss is BookTok. And well, I really like personally, I think it's great that BookTok is encouraging like more people to like start reading. But my personal experience with attempting like to read some of the BookTok books have been really frustrating, because honestly, they've just seemed like copy paste plots and characters with like different names, and like why are we doing all this? Like, I mean, I just feel like there's no original, like truly original plot from like the BookTok books that I've read. And they've also turned like, they'll market books as like fantasy, but then it'll be like 90% romance, which is fine for people who enjoy those, but I feel like they've kind of turned like fantasy into like a little bit of a taboo. And that's not to say like there aren't any good books anymore, because like obviously this is just about like what's circulating on mainstream TikTok, like on the BookTok side. And I'm sure there's like really good new authors who are releasing like really great original books, but honestly like BookTok has just been super frustrating for me.
Yeah, I definitely get that, because TikTok tends to turn things into a bit of micro trends every time. But I also like that you pointed out that they're encouraging more people to read. I feel like that's a really important factor, because you can't really control what everyone reads as long as you're reading. I mean, that's good. But I would also like to point out that these like rom-com books have been existing as like since people have been writing, especially like, for example, Pride and Prejudice. If Pride and Prejudice came out today through like BookTok, people would say, oh, this is just another BookTok book, but it's also a romance, and romance books have been read since the Victorian ages, when women were sitting at home and had nothing else to do, so you can't really pick and choose. But yeah, I definitely think that maybe people should branch out a little bit and maybe try out a little bit more than just dragon books. Next, you'll hear from more TAP hosts to recap the previous episodes of our third season.
Hi, I'm Caden, and street art was the topic of episode 3 and was co-hosted by Olivia and Darya. The two dove into the history of street art and spotlighted iconic artists in the scene, including Lady Pink and Jean-Michel Basquiat. They started the episode by giving a general rundown of street art and mentioned how public art and street art are terms that are kind of debated. They later explored this topic by addressing common biases that form from the line between art and street art, between street art and crime that street artists have to kind of walk across. And they did so by interviewing local Seattle artists Idris Goodwin and Tasani Hill. This episode was one of my favorite episodes because of my pre-existing interest in street art and hip-hop. It was super cool to learn specifically about the street art in Seattle, since the episode I co-hosted last year was on stickers and wasn't as regionally focused. It's incredible to see how many facets of street art have developed and how different it looks across the nation in both visual style and medium. It's even cooler for me to see how similarly these tightly rooted values of the street arts we've interviewed on tap lie in similar foundation. I urge you to check this episode out to learn more about the groundwork that holds up the street art we see around us.
Hi, I'm Sofia, and today I'm going to be talking about the Shakespeare episode hosted by Olivia and Ashwari. So, so I never really was a big Shakespeare fan before, but now as I've listened to this episode and also I've read more plays with Shakespeare, well, specifically Julius Caesar, I now have an appreciation for Shakespeare that I haven't had in the past. So, for example, my favorite Shakespeare play now is Julius Caesar. I loved how the plot was really interesting, and it explored themes of power and sacrifice between the characters, which is really interesting to think about, especially nowadays with a lot of the political stuff going on, the wars and things like that. But yeah, I just think it explores a lot of really important themes. Yeah, I used to hate Shakespeare because I thought it was boring and I couldn't really understand what was going on. But now my English teacher assigned us Julius Caesar to read for an assignment. I realized that there are good Shakespeare plays out there, and reading it is sort of like a skill, sort of, because you have to really adapt to the style that Shakespeare used back in the 1700s. I'm not entirely sure, but it was a long time ago, and of course the style and the way people write has definitely evolved and changed, and having to read it from a modern lens is a little bit difficult, but it takes practice. But I definitely related to what Ashwari said about how reading the words is similar to solving a puzzle. You have to read between the lines and not taking phrases that the characters say at face value in order to understand what's happening. So, for example, a character could say one thing, but it really means something else once you really think about that phrase. I also really related to what Olivia said, how it takes time to appreciate Shakespeare. I know she was talking about how for her, she didn't like Shakespeare until she acted in a play for school. And similar to that, I didn't start appreciating Shakespeare until my sophomore English class. So I think this really comes to show that it really just depends on the different approach that people take to Shakespeare, and how it could happen differently for anyone, whether that's, a play or an English class or just however you approach Shakespeare. Some of my favorite moments from this episode is when some of the interviewees talked about the superstition around Macbeth, like when Macbeth is uttered in a theater, or when it's uttered in a theater, or the character's name is uttered in a theater, the show is destined for doom because nothing can compete with Macbeth. I think that's what they were saying. It seems so random, but maybe there's truth to it. Who knows? One of the interviewees did talk about how Macbeth was the first play they acted in and directed themselves. That's really interesting because it shows their creativity and how big of an imagination they have. That they took a historical play and modernized it at such a young age that takes real talent and real creativity. And this definitely leads to the point that young people are developing a new and personal lens to Shakespeare. This is important because his work needs to stay around, and by young people including him in their art, it keeps his spirit alive.
Hi, I'm Blue, and I'm talking about the Seattle fashion episode, which was hosted by Tegan and co-hosted by Caden. I want to talk about this episode because I'm super interested in fashion in general. I really like expressing myself that way. It's one of my favorite forms of expression. And like they talked about in the episode, I see a lot of people calling Seattle a boring fashion city, and that people are not well dressed here, comparatively to New York and Paris and stuff like that, which I totally understand. But I think there's so much fashion, so much interesting fashion to see in Seattle. Like they were discussing in the episode, they talked about a Seattle uniform, which I totally agree with. But I think there's so much more to that that people don't really get to see as often. I see interesting fashion everywhere. I see it all the time in school, Capitol Hill, the U District. It's just really, really, awesome fashion to see, especially, with young people. I think young people are always the people that are, having, the most cool fashion. But, yeah, totally. And I also know so many people who love thrifting, and thrifting culture is, a really, I think a lot of the way that people like have so much interesting fashion and the way people get into fashion because it's so accessible. And I know that there's so many great thrift and vintage stores in Seattle. I love thrifting. Vintage shopping is some of my favorite thing to do on a weekend. And I think that Seattle fashion staples are super popular around the world. Like they were talking about like puffers, like that's like a very common thing. Function over fashion. But there's also like tons of influences that you can see in Seattle fashion that are like coming from around the world. Like I think Seattle is a very fashion forward place. Like any big city really is. And I also really liked the episode because you get 2 different perspectives on fashion. Like Tegan is like a more like fashion over function person and Caden is a more function over fashion person, and I think like those are both like completely valid ways of like going about wearing clothes. Like so it was interesting to hear like 2 like competing perspectives on such a like everyday thing that is just like you have to wear clothes every day. So like it's just like really interesting to hear those perspectives on it.
Hi, I'm Olivia, and I wanted to talk about an episode I really enjoyed from the last season, which is the concert photography episode. This episode was hosted by Mykah and co-hosted by Blue, and they gave us an overview of concert photography as an art form, how it works, and how each of them became interested in it. I loved hearing so much about this type of art because I think it goes kind of unnoticed and underappreciated, especially considering that concert-going culture, photography is such a big part of it, especially with the rise of social media. Mykah also made a really interesting point during the episode. I think it was in the context of talking about Harry Styles and like the pre-show photos that he would post, about how photography can really humanize mega pop stars who are often not really seen as human. I also really love the interviews in this episode. Both Kairos and JoJo had such a wealth of experience to share. JoJo mentioned photographing for Justin Timberlake, the VMAs, the Seahawks, and Kairos had a lot of interesting things to share about their editing process and how it had changed over time, which I thought was really cool. I was also very interested in this episode because I actually started doing photography seriously for the first time this year. And guys, it's not as easy as it looks. Especially in fast-paced environments like protests or concerts. Learning more about photographing through both experience and through this podcast episode, it gave me so much more respect for people who do it professionally. I really love the episode, and I recommend you check it out.